Hello and welcome to this World of Tanks tutorial. My name is Maxwell and today we're going to be taking a look at the map Himmelsdorf, which is a city map, and the routes and tactics you should use as a light tank scout. Okay, so we're going to take a look at our first proper city map, and this time it is Himmelsdorf. City maps are always difficult for light tanks and scouts, and this one is no exception. So, as always, if you follow the blue and yellow lines, they will show you the optimum routes. On the right hand flank, try and take the hill where all of the mediums congregate. On the left hand flank you have the railway tracks, where you'll try and get to an advanced hidden position, do some spotting, and then progress on to the enemy's base. As you can see, there are 3 normal camping spots for the artillery, depending which base, and they are the right flank, left flank, and directly in the base. Tank destroyers and heavy tanks always camp around that middle courtyard, and heavy tanks and other tank destroyers try and move up that left-hand flank where the railway tracks are. I've intentionally left the railway tracks blank because that's a bit of a wildcard area. It's very dependent on personal playstyle, what kind of vehicles you'll get moving down there. So you could get absolutely anything, mediums, heavies, tank destroyers. And in fact, I've even seen a couple of artillery pieces charging down there because they also hate this map. So the first route we're going to cover when spawning at base number 1 is going to be down the right hand flank and the train tracks. Now, the main reason that you should hate city maps as a light tank, and especially a scout, is because there's no sort of camouflage. There's no trees and bushes that you can get yourself stealthed in and do some good spotting. So the best you can hope for is a good wall or building to provide cover from direct fire. So what you're going to want to do is just head across these train tracks as quick as possible and get through the wall there that I've already pre-broken. Now, sometimes when you get to about here, you can spot a medium tank coming down, so what you can try and do is try and take cover in here as best you can and hope that your artillery or one of your allies takes them out. Now, if you don't spot anybody, what you want to do is just move up a little bit further and get yourself into this position here. Now, from here, you can spot anybody moving up this end, and you get a good view of the enemy's artillery position, which is normally just over there. So you want to just hang out in this area for a while. Once this area's been cleared, or if you do get spotted, what you can do is just quickly cut across the tracks and just try and take cover behind whatever you can. So this building here, or if need be, you can just double back and hide behind that building there. Now, once you are cleared to move forwards, just keep heading all the way down this right hand flank here. Now, the reason you want to come down the right hand flank is because this building here provides cover from the enemy's artillery, which will most likely be camped in this area here. 9 times out of 10, if there's an artillery piece on the train tracks, it's either over there or just here. So you can pick yourself up a quick kill there. Now, if you don't spot some artillery, or after you've taken it out, what you want to do is just head directly into the enemy's base. Now, sometimes because this map's so awkward for artillery, they decide just to sit in the base and not move anywhere, so you can sometimes find an artillery piece lurking just around here or around there. And what you want to do is, once you're in the base, just try and take cover behind the church, either on this side or the other side, depending where the enemy's coming from, and you can try and get yourself a base capture. So the second route we're going to cover when spawning at base number 1 is going to be taking the hill. Now, if you decide you want to do a rushing method and just rush directly for the enemy's base without stopping, then this is probably the safest, but also the slowest. You can just rush straight across the square there, but 99% of the time you are just going to get destroyed doing so. And you can try and do the same going down the train tracks, which is a lot faster than this again, but you're more likely to get destroyed if you're just bombing straight down the train tracks there. You're an easy target. The reason I recommend taking this route if you want to rush is every now and then a team just decides to totally neglect the hill and leaves it totally open, and aside from that, when you're going on the downhill, you're pretty quick, so you're able to get away from your pursuers quite effectively. So what you want to do normally is just head up to this position here and just take cover there and keep a watch on the top of the hill there. If you're first here, then you can get some good eyes on this area. As soon as somebody pops over the top, if you can damage them, have a shot. If not, just pop yourself back like that and wait for your allies. If you don't have any allies following you, then number 1, shame on your team. Number 2, you can either try, if they start coming directly for where you were, you can try and circle around this church, or don't be afraid to just head back down the hill and back through to your base to keep yourself alive. So what you can do is just try and run circles around them, get them to follow you one way around this church, and then you head round the other direction. So once the area is clear, or if you're rushing, or if you're being pursued, don't go down that way, by the way. It just takes a lot longer. So what you want to do is just head down this way. If you are being pursued, don't forget to do some random zigzag maneuvers, as it will try and throw them off, especially if they are zoomed in sniper mode. So just head down this area, try and keep to the right here, because this building will offer you some good protection from view from their base. Only pop out to the left when you absolutely have to. Sometimes you can find an artillery piece sitting just about here, and you can try and take him out. So just make sure you're covered and there's no tanks that have got an easy line of sight on you down these streets here. If they have, pop around to the other side of the church. It's always good to have a quick look there, because sometimes you can spot an enemy artillery piece sat just there and pick yourself up a kill. So just take some good cover behind this church and try and get a base capture. If somebody does spot you, if somebody comes down the street, just either pop around to the other side of the church, or don't be afraid to abandon the base capture and just preserve your own life. So the third tactic we're going to cover when spawning at base number 1 is going to be a lot more dynamic and involves a lot more moving. You're not going to want to stay in one spot for too long. We're basically going to cover 3 or 4 spots, and you want to just change between these as the battle progresses. So first off, what you can do is you can come down this road here and get yourself to, just hang on, this position here, and that allows you to spot the enemy heavy tanks and tank destroyers getting into position. Now you might think that this information isn't too useful, because your mediums and heavies just behind you will also gather the same information, but it will give you a heads up as to how many forces the enemy is committing to this flank. So once you've spotted a few tanks there and hopefully dodged a couple of pot shots, what you want to do is just head straight across this road here. Now you can take these spots in any order you like. You don't have to use the one I just used there. Be careful when coming across here, because a stray shot can sometimes take you out. But as you're coming across here, your view through the little windows there, you should get a good view on anybody trying to suicidally cross that area there. So just poke yourself out here, have a quick spot. If you don't see anybody, or if you don't like stopping there, you can just head straight across to this position here. Now from this position here, you can have a poke out through the columns here and have a quick look. Now don't forget that the enemy can shoot through these columns, so that doesn't offer too much protection. And this position also gives you a good view of anybody getting into place in these ruined buildings here. And once you've done a little bit spotting here, what you can do is just spin yourself around and go to the original area, which we covered in the first route, which is across these train tracks. Now if you choose to do this bit last, be aware that heading across these train tracks can be quite dangerous once you're this far into a game. So just have a quick look there. If you don't see anybody, immediately drop back and try and take cover behind this building in front of you here. Now the reason you want to hide here is because it gives you a good view down the train tracks if you just poke your head out there. Also, this sort of fuel container here will kind of protect you from anybody moving up this path here, as you can't drive through it. So if you spot somebody come through the wall and they try and have a shot at you, this should block the shot and they won't be able to drive through the wall to get you, as this will block them. And what you want to do in that case is just fall back across here, or just take cover behind here. And then once you've spotted this area, again just drop back to this building here, all the while trying to dodge shots that are no doubt coming in. And basically what you want to do is just have a roam around the map, have a good scout, have a good look about. Just don't stand in one place for too long, always try and be moving. Just get yourself in there, have a quick look. Don't see anybody, move on to the next place. So always be moving, don't stop for too long, as a light tank on this map is a pretty easy target. The first route we're going to cover spawning at base number 2 is going to be across the train tracks. So just head out to your base along this path here and cut a quick left onto the train tracks. You've got a little bit of dodging to do, so just make sure you're manoeuvrable enough and just get yourself through there without crashing like I do into that building there. So where you're going to want to get to, always be mindful about breaking scenery, because sometimes you'll get a experienced artillery player who will be watching areas like this for where light tanks are going to be rushing for lampposts and things falling, and they'll be able to predict your movements. Trust me, it does happen. So first place you want to get to is this position here, and have a quick look along the route here. Sometimes you'll be able to spot an enemy scout or medium tank moving down that area. If you do, maybe have a pot shot at them if you can damage them, and drop back behind here. The good thing about this position is these train carts here offer fantastic protection from heavy tanks and tank destroyers, which sometimes congregate around there. Now if this area is clear when you come after sort of 60 seconds or so of hiding, or you take out whoever's there, then what you want to do is just move along here. This wall offers good stealth, and by the time you do become visible, it's normally too late for someone to get a good shot on you. So just head up here. Now sometimes you'll find a tank destroyer hiding just in that cubby hole there, or just behind those crates there, so just be aware that you may have to circle them to get a kill, and that is a good hiding spot for artillery, as is just here, behind the railway building. So if there is, just have a shot at those, hopefully get a kill, and just move around here. Now depending how far progressed the game is, if it's still quite near the beginning of the match, you'll normally find a tank destroyer and heavy tanks camped all around that area there, and maybe a heavy tank or tank destroyer either there or there. And if they are there, just try and get past them as fast as possible and head to the enemy's base. And sometimes you'll find an artillery piece either in that cubby hole there or just here. Now if there's nobody and the game's quite progressed, then what you want to do is just come in and try and get a base capture. Now without there being a church in the middle, you might think that this is a bit harder to capture, but normally the best position to take is this one here, as it blocks the line of sight from that path there and that path there from any mediums coming down from the hill. Now one thing I like to do, it's not always successful, but sometimes it can confuse people, is just spin yourself around and tuck yourself into this cubby hole here. Now from the front you can't be seen unless somebody comes directly in front of you to get a shot on you, and as you can see, even though I'm tucked in here, I am still capturing the base. So that can be just a nice little cheeky way of trying to steal the base right from under someone's nose. If they're not sure, if they're just coming down the road, they won't be able to see you, and they won't be sure where you are, so they may just start firing randomly, and you may get away with it. The second route we're going to cover when spawning at base number 2 is going to be the hill. It's almost identical to spawning at base number 1, but I'm just going to add it in for completeness. Now if you spawn nearer to the back street there, then you want to take that one instead of this one, as it is a little quicker, but the time that you would save moving to the back street is nullified by the speed that you lose. So if you spawn nearer that street, head down that one. If you spawn nearer this back one here, head down that one. So as in spawning at base number 1, you want to just head up the hill as quickly as possible. Don't take that bit of hill there, as the turn in the middle there and the path itself is a bit steeper, so it will actually take you quite a bit longer to get to the top of the hill. And when you are a light tank scout, speed and reaching your objective first are the most important things. So once you're around this corner here, if the enemy has another fast scout, you may encounter them there. Just have a shot at them and try and survive until your backup arrives. If there's nobody, just again as before, have a pop out here and check the brow of the hill. If you do catch a couple of tanks cresting the brow of the hill, depending on the speed of your gun, you can generally get off 1 or 2 shots on their bottom armour, which sometimes offers an almost guaranteed penetration, so you can do a bit of damage as they're coming over the hill. Now if nobody follows you up the hill, don't be afraid to just head back down towards your base and abandon the hill altogether, because just sacrificing yourself on top of the hill isn't going to gain your team anything. So if you do get cornered by somebody, just remember to use this big building as cover and just try and circle around it and make them chase you, and hopefully your speed will win out in the end. So once the area is clear, or if nobody had come up here originally, just head over the hill and head down this area yourself. Now sometimes you'll find an enemy artillery piece hiding just there. If there is, then try and take him out. I wouldn't recommend going down that route there. I would recommend heading all the way to the end here and taking a left down this area, because sometimes there will be enemy SPG hidden just there, and you can have a few shots at him as you're coming down this route. Now if you get to here and you realise there's a couple of defenders still in the base, then don't just blindly head into the base and get yourself killed. Just do a 180-degree turn and head back this way. Again, use your speed and manoeuvrability to your advantage and try and make them chase you. So just head around this area here. You can normally spot some tank destroyers and heavy tanks there, and then just try and get into the base through this angle instead. Hopefully you should have some allies backing you up at this point, so whoever was chasing you should be dealt with, and you should be able to get a base capture. And the final tactic we're going to look at when spawning at base number 1 is going to be... Sorry, base number 2, not base number 1. is going to be the mobile spotting tactic, which we covered from the other base, but it just has different positions. Now again, you can move to these positions in any order. It doesn't have to be the same specific order that I use. So what you want to do is just get to this area here and have a quick look. You can usually spot heavy tanks and tank destroyers moving into position there. If you don't get eyes on anybody, trust me, someone will always be here. So just move forward a little bit if you've gotten here quickly, and just get yourself behind this building here and have a look, and that gets you a much better view of who's coming. Also makes you an easier target to hit, so just pop back when you spot somebody. Now if you're in this exposed position, it's a bit more difficult to get back to the road and safety, so just be aware of that when you're moving forwards. So what you want to do is just head across. Now base number 2 has a lot more open ground in this area, so what you want to do is just, instead of cutting straight across there, which makes you an easy target, is just head this way instead. It costs you a little bit more time, but it makes it a hell of a lot safer and cuts out all of that open ground there. So you want to head to this building here and just have a little pop out there and a look. Now usually you'll find a heavy tank there, a heavy tank there, and tank destroyers lined up along there. Once you've had a spot, again, just pop back, or what you can do is, if you don't have any heavy or medium tanks in this area, you can just have a quick pop across here and poke out and have a look at the train tracks. And sometimes you'll find people trying to advance down this area here, so just have a quick look at for those. So once you're done with this area, what you want to do is try and get to that building as quickly as possible, because if the enemy has people on the train tracks, they will almost certainly get a couple of shots at you. Just move to behind here, wait until they're reloading, and then pop across to this position here. Now, this position, as we covered in the other route, gives you a good view down the train tracks along there, and these rail cars here offer good protection from anybody shooting at you from over in that direction. Again, just remember the golden rule when using this technique is you don't want to stay in any one position for too long. You always want to be moving, and you always want to be mobile, as movement and agility are your main defences, because let's face it, your armour and hit points aren't up to the job. Thank you very much for watching this World of Tanks tutorial. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, please don't forget to like or favourite it, and you can go ahead and subscribe to this channel for more guides, tips, tutorials for World of Tanks and other games in the future. Thank you.